Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so we'll be getting started right now. For anyone in the audience, we'll have obviously more people coming in as we go on. But if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Futureswap AMA questions chat right above this channel, and we'll potentially take some of those near the end of the call. But yeah. So before we do get into everything, obviously for those who don't know, this is a Futureswap AMA with the co-founder CEO Derek. I'll be co-hosting this with Stephen Goldfeder, the co-founder and CEO of Arbitrum or Off-Chain Labs, how you prefer. Looking forward to it. So before we do get into things, I do just want to give people a little overview of what FutureSwap is. Derek, do you think the people who aren't too familiar with FutureSwap, kind of what it is and what you use it for?
Yeah, sure. So on a high level, FutureSwap, we were the first to build perpetuals on chain. So we have a lot of experience building this stuff, and our latest version is more of a cross between margin trading and perpetuals. And the reason we did that is because we want to leverage the power of all these AMMs and all their liquidity, because we think there's just an incredible amount of excitement and interest in being able to go sort of where other perpetuals cannot go. And so I would say the latest version of FutureSwap sort of enables leverage on AMMs. So AMMs like, what we're currently on is Uniswap v3. So we get to use their concentrated liquidity. We get to use their cheaper fee structure to have a really incredible trading experience that's totally on chain, that's totally compatible with other protocols. So you can really easily build on us, and it really aligns incentives in terms of the AMM and the liquidity providers and the traders. So it's a really interesting proposition. I think we're really just getting started, and Arbitrum has been incredibly supportive of that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we're happy to hear. If I may ask, is there like an inherent benefit of using like one AMM over another, or is it possible for it to even like kind of aggregate AMMs across the chain?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just Uniswap v3, and we chose Uniswap v3 because sort of Uniswap v3's concentrated liquidity has the most sort of interesting properties in terms of being able to it's like a cross between an order book and an AMM. It certainly has its downsides in that it's harder to manage for a lot of users. But if it's well managed, if there's a lot of market makers there, it's incredible. The problem is there's not a lot of great market makers that have tons of liquidity that they can be everywhere. But there's a lot of liquidity that just wants to throw into Uniswap v2 or a derivative of, and be able to trade there. So we actually have a really cool update coming up, which enables
Alpha?
this exact feature. So we're really excited about that.
Ooh,
Exciting
okay,
alpha
okay.
right there.
Yeah. So we love some alpha around here.
Yeah, alpha's good. Alpha's good.
So, as well, I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I want to see if you can maybe kind of touch on it a little more before we kind of get into more of the protocol related stuff. What was the motivation behind starting FutureSwap?
A lot of the motivation was just not relying on the trust of these centralized exchanges. Although they're great in what they do, at the end of the day, sort of, we believe that if you're really into crypto, you should build products for crypto people. And yeah, it's going to be really hard, but we think it's worth the payoff of creating something that actually is in line with the ethos of what crypto is all about. So that was really the first start into saying, hey, why don't we tackle this really hard problem? And if it works, it sort of aligns with what we believe in creating a open, trustless protocol where users can't get cheated on or anything like that. I mean, there's been so many examples of centralized exchanges trading against their users and manipulating things in the background. And at the end of the day, like, we're trying to build systems where we can see what's going on, and sort of being affected by that, we sort of said, let's create something that would be really, really hard to do, and it's transparent, so you could see if it's happening or not. So I think it's still super early days, but yeah, definitely going in that direction.
Yeah, and I think like that's definitely not something that should at all be overlooked, especially nowadays. I truly feel like there are a lot more people coming into space now that seem to not put as much emphasis on openness, decentralization, and like the core values of what crypto is supposed to be in the first place. It's kind of more so just like whoever can like whether the product's centralized or not, at its core, as long as it works, I'm happy with it. It's very unfortunate to see people kind of go in that direction, but it's true. Unfortunately.
That's normal though. Like, events will occur that question that notion though. Like, if you're in it for the long run, then these centralized things are bound to repeat the mistakes that affect them, right? AWS will go down, right? DYDX
Oh
will go
yeah.
down, and
Oh my.
Starkware goes down, and it's
Yeah,
kind of like people don't care until it affects them.
yeah, it's the same thing with layer twos in general, right? People say, why should I use this and not use, in some sense you can call AWS a blockchain if you want, right? So if you on this on the, on the on the spectrum from centralization to decentralization, you run from like AWS to Ethereum, and people say, it's not broken until it's broken, and often that's too late. So yeah, absolutely, it's important to keep those values, and if you're in it for the long run, they're bound to. I totally agree that they're bound to play out and become evident how important they are, because history will definitely repeat itself. Maybe not in the in the 3 month span of this particular cycle, but
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
a longer vision than that.
Yeah. So there's that part of like why we started. And as we were creating, we were just like, this is so exciting. And there's so many possibilities of what you can do once you're on chain. And you can interact with all these communities, and you can interact with all these protocols. And we built a version that was like super not in that direction. So we know what it's like to build something that doesn't connect to anything at all, but it's very performant. And it was kind of sad, like just being able to like missing all these opportunities that we could have had in building more relations. And I think now we're swinging hard in the other direction. We're building sort of this building block that really hyper focuses on like connectivity, working with other AMMs and protocols, and aligning incentives as much as possible. And yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It's awesome to hear. And just to kind of end off that little AWS note there, some reason, like in my mind, it's like I just thought about someone like bragging about doing leverage swaps on the AWS blockchain. I don't know why. I could just see that. I could see it. I'm sure at some point someone's gonna do something like that, but hopefully
We'll
not
get
soon.
there.
I was like, so on the note of different protocols that you just brought up, what differentiates Futureswap from other perpetuals?
Yeah, and like I said, Futureswap is this hybrid between perp and margin trading, in the sense that we have this funding rate. You can have many, many, many times the open interest that we actually have liquidity for. So you can basically reuse liquidity many, many more times. And so you have this sort of synthetic nature, but you have this like ultra safe nature. So we built really in safety first, in the ability to go to really volatile assets, and not have our users wrecked, right? Because our LPs are incredibly important to us, and making sure that they don't lose money is problem number one to solve. And so we designed this exchange to be very resilient in turbulent times and very safe. So I'd say like that's sort of the first mark. And the second mark is, we essentially leverage the liquidity of AMMs. So if there's a really exciting pair, Futureswap can tap into that very easily. And we're working on making that process nearly permissionless. And so just like Uniswap, very quickly, spin up a new exchange and start trading on that pair. I don't think any other protocol can really do that. They sort of have to wait for a couple different factors to happen, and then they can start doing this. So yeah, I think speed to new markets, the amount of leverage we can offer right now. We're offering 35x leverage on our latest exchange, which is the BTC ETH exchange, which launched yesterday, which has been a lot of fun so far. It's got a lot of liquidity in there, so definitely check it out. And yeah, and this is just the beginning. We could probably push it, much further, but we don't want to go too fast. So seeing something like 50x or something isn't outside the boundaries.
100x, 200x. I mean, is there like a limit?
There's definitely a limit. I mean, the hard-coded limit in our exchange is 256x leverage. But we'll see if we ever get to that point.
Part of me hopes not.
Yeah, same.
Wow. I know you mentioned the BTC and ETH pair, which I do want to get into in a moment. But I kind of want to take a step back here. For example, I yesterday, I mean, even today, kind of, like huge crash in the crypto markets. I think ETH and BTC kind of felt that. Does it these are the kind of scenarios where Futureswap kind of excels? Because most centralized exchanges go down. I tried using Gemini the other day and it literally didn't even work. Didn't even open.
Yeah. I think this is it's the great time to, not financial advice, great time to open, certain types of positions when market crashes like that. And, Futureswap is super safe in that, and that will keep on running. We're fully decentralized. So we're good. We didn't go down. It was a rough day to open a market because I think there was just a lot of fear off of people like, oh, should I open a position now? Like, what's going on with the market? So there's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah, but ultimately the volatility is where, people make a lot of money. People don't trade, massive profits when the price is constant. So it's all about your risk appetite, and we're growing our tools and our UI, and we're improving all these things to make sure that people feel super safe when opening a position on Futureswap.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of onto that Bitcoin ETH pair. I know you just mentioned it's been going great. Do you have any you don't have to give us exact stats in general, but like how has that kind of performed against some of the other pairs you guys have?
I mean, it's so early, and I think there's really, if you look at the perpetual space, I think there's really only one other exchange that has ETH or BTC ETH perp. And so it's a pretty unused pair. We like the pair simply because we're big fans of Ethereum. We think Bitcoin's cool, but we're all about the flippening, and we wanted to create a place where people who are strong BTC maxis and people who are ETH maxis can basically come together and play with each other.
We should get people. There's a lot of Twitter drama on that debate, so we should get people to put their money where their mouth is.
For sure, yeah. I think, so they can come over to Arbitrum and they can, check out Futureswap and they can open a trade. I think it just takes time for these things to grow, though. Ultimately, people want to see how they perform. People want to see kind of it dip their toe in the water and then slowly move into a position. Is generally what we see.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I definitely. I mean, I've always thought about doing this type of stuff, just leverage trading in general, and I don't know, I know my heart can't take it, so personally, I don't really do it myself, but kind of on the maxis. Are you a Bitcoin maxi if you're using wrapped Bitcoin? Does that count?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We should ask the Badger folks.
Yeah, that is true. But so then, something else you also. Yeah. Oh my god! Imagine that. Oh my god. Arbitrum layer 2 for Bitcoin coming soon.
That was our April joke last year. And, every so often we still get someone asking about it.
Isn't that how it started out? Wasn't it all about Bitcoin for you guys?
Like I started in the space in about 2013 when all there was Bitcoin, but Arbitrum other than our April Fool's joke, Arbitrum's always been the Ethereum from like early day one of the company. The academic paper was more agnostic, but yeah,
Gotcha.
one day we'll launch on Bitcoin.
So much alpha.
Don't take that seriously.
Yeah, no. We're joking. This is recorded, by the way. So
this is how sound bites get.
in terms of listing pairs, obviously you listed the BTC ETH pair yesterday. Like is like having permissionless listing on the roadmap as well? I know you kind of just brought that up there a little bit, but are you able to expand on that at all?
Yeah, I can expand on that. I think we want to make sure that our users go into markets where they feel really safe. In that, like, you can open a position and understand what's happening. Because if you don't understand what's happening, like, you can lose money. And so, unfortunately, anyone can. I mean, well, fortunately, people can create whatever they want on Uniswap, on SushiSwap, on all these permissionless things. But that opens up to also some harmful things. And so we just want to be pretty cautious because early on, we're very open to adding pairs that have liquidity behind them. But we just want to make sure that this is like it's going to be around for a while, and it's not going to be just like a quick pump. And then, we've got to deal with that. But we're definitely thinking about how to maneuver in the space of permissionlessness. I think we will be by far the closest to permissionlessness perps by far. Like, there's no way the competitors have a chance. It's just how we architected our system, and you'll see that in the coming months. So we're excited about that, but I think it's like tread with caution, for sure.
I'm getting goosebumps over here, just how you're talking. That's awesome. I think like permissionless listing especially is just. I mean, obviously, I would say I want to say Uniswap kind of pioneered that. Obviously, like a while ago.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's really important to have that added, especially because again, it's like you kind of mentioned before, like your whole the whole goal in general is for everything to be open, permissionless, decentralized, etc. All the buzzwords you want to throw in there. And I think that's one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can definitely do it. I think we could probably do it earlier if it's really if people are really demanding it, and that we say there's got to be this much liquidity for this amount of time. So it's almost like a TWAP on the amount of liquidity. I don't know what that acronym is, but yeah, something like that, just to make sure there's enough liquidity so you can actually do trades and have fun.
Isn't TWAP like time weighted average price? Is that what that is? I think.
Yeah, but if you did it for the liquidity, so you could see over time what the average liquidity was, say, more than X million in liquidity.
A T-wall, maybe.
T-wall.
We're really pioneering stuff out here. So on the note of like ecosystem building, right? Obviously that's one thing that we at Arbitrum have been like really really big on since we launched a couple months ago. What role do perpetuals, in this case, it could be Futureswap, play in the DeFi ecosystem? You think?
Yeah. So one of the biggest areas they play in is enabling more strategic trades. And what I mean by that is being able to hedge. So that's a big one. So people will buy on spot and then short on Futureswap, and sort of they get this hedge. And so that's one strategy. The other strategy is just getting more exposure to an asset where they have $100 and or 1,000 or whatever, and they if they believe something's going in a certain direction, and they want more leverage on that price action, they open a leverage trade. And so with that upside risk, or with that upside price movement, you also get the risk of potentially being So this is the downside of perpetuals that you always hear about, which is like, oh, I got wrecked, I got liquidated. And it's because, you know, people go and they open these like very leveraged trades, and then they don't manage the collateral in that. And the more leverage you put on, the more you have to manage the collateral. And so like the more work you have to do. And I don't think people realize that. So it can be a huge a difficulty. But once people realize like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go, you know, max leverage every time. I should like really dial it down.
56x.
You know, dial it down and be strategic about it and manage it responsibly. And that's really who we target. You know, we target responsible traders, professional traders. So you know, it's really for them. And now we're seeing, you know, protocols wanting to integrate on top of us. So that's been something that's been really interesting. I won't mention who, because they're building their stuff not in public. But it's really exciting that you know, protocols want to pick that up and use that as part of their yield farming strategy. So I think, you know, perpetuals will sort of intensify some of these yields. It'll come with more, you know, protocol management in terms of the position, but it could be really exciting in terms of capital efficiency.
Sure. Now I want to actually go ahead and maybe take a question from the audience here. Someone by the name of ECIB, I'm going to go ahead and say ECIB or EKIB, depending, I guess, on, you know, where you're from. He asks, how can other DeFi protocols use Futureswap as a Lego or a primitive? You may have kind of already touched on it with that question there, but maybe kind of honing in on that specific question there would help.
Yeah. So right now it's been a pretty like touch by touch basis as we get some inbound and, you know, we talk to the protocols. Futureswap is currently this version is closed source, so we just want to make sure that we're working with the right protocols. But we do have an audit coming up, and after this audit, which ends pretty soon, you know, we will open source our interface. It'll be much easier for these protocols to build on top of us, especially now that it's opening up to being multi AMM, because there's just more liquidity, there's more interest, there's more protocols building on these other things. So that'll be exciting.
And what can someone do with the FST token? I probably should have asked that earlier, but can you kind of give us a breakdown of like what that token is used for and you know, like how it relates to the protocol?
Yeah, so Futureswap FST is our governance token. So you get to vote on some issues. There haven't been a whole lot of proposals, mostly because we've been focusing on just building the protocol and iterating on designs. But after this update, we do hope to have more utility for the actual token. So it's definitely something we've been taking a look at and figuring out what to do. And so, yeah, there's some interesting things that we plan on doing with the token soon.
Yeah, I think the token talk is always people's favorite topic, so I had to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, people get this thing, they want to do something with it. There's a lot of incredible different use cases out there for what people are doing with their token. You look at Sushi and X Sushi, and how a lot of the AMMs are now sort of following in that path, mostly because they've cloned Sushi and that's just what they have. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely the single-sided staking is really interesting. But I think whatever you decide to do in terms of utility with your token, you need to make sure that has a flywheel effect on the thing that you want. And to have staking just for staking seems like a wasted opportunity. So I think it's a lot of protocols jump the gun in terms of like just doing something with their token because they need to do something, and instead not focusing on how that can actually be a very like important part. I'm not saying all projects do this, but I think majority do.
got you. Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're gonna have a token, you got to make sure the tokenomics are A1, right?
Definitely.
The next question I have, you know, it's going to be in that same kind of speculation type of environment there. What do you guys think about integrating NFTs into FutureSwap? Is it something you guys have thought of? Is that even possible? I don't think it is personally, but maybe it is. I don't know.
It definitely is. And it's something we've actually publicly posted about before. So we did a post, I want to say 3 months ago, when we launched with NFTX. And this was the idea of doing perpetuals on NFTs. And this was something that was like super exciting and we're still excited about, and something we're still committed very much so to doing, and could be the next pool. So we just had to make sure that a lot of what FutureSwap has been doing is when we launched, not all the incentives we wanted were there. So some of the incentive programs that we built are very, very interesting, to sort of make sure that the liquidity in the AMMs were there, because we needed to incentivize those, because we don't always use the same pools that everyone else uses. We use the low fee pools on Uniswap with the concentrated liquidity. And we really had to build those pools from essentially, less than $1 million to today, plus $20 million. It's the most popular pool on Arbitrum right now, the ETH USDC 0.05% pool. So we incentivize a lot of liquidity to be there, and building the tooling to distribute those rewards to liquidity providers that are within a 2% bounds of the price. So these guys are updating constantly their concentrated liquidity to make sure that the slippage on FutureSwap is really good, and in turn really benefits everyone who wants to use that Uniswap pool. So I don't think people realize when FutureSwap moves into a liquidity pool, it just creates an incredible amount of utility for the ecosystem that depends on that pool. So there was a lot of building that, and then trade incentives, launching a new pool, getting all the, with ETH margin trades, that was a really big update for us. And so getting back to your question, sorry, this is long-winded.
Oh, you're good.
Definitely interested in doing NFTs. I think NFTs are huge. I think there's recently been a little bit of a drawdown in terms of the excitement of NFTs, which I think will come back and might be a great opportunity to create a pool and for people to open longs, because NFTs aren't going away. And I do think a lot of the excitement around it will sort of simmer a little bit, and then kind of we'll see a reemergence.
I think that's just like anything else in the space, right? Like you get that kind of hype cycle, and then all of a sudden, like whatever that thing is starts to normalize in a lot of projects. Like I truly feel like NFT and DeFi integration in dApps are like, I'm surprised I haven't seen more of them. So it's pretty cool to see you guys at FutureSwap are doing that.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, FutureSwap, things like it's really comes down to liquidity, and the more liquid a market is, the easier it is to create these systems. And so, FutureSwap wants to be part of the flywheel that makes these projects more liquid in their pool, like because it can be very difficult. So we want to be sort of the fuel for making these NFT markets more liquid, because you can have more capital efficiency in terms of trade volume, and therefore more yield, and therefore attracting more LPs to this pool, and sort of bolstering that is what FutureSwap is all about. So we hope to be part of the reemergence, and hope to do a lot of that on Arbitrum.
Yeah. Speaking of obviously, FutureSwap and obviously it being on Arbitrum, is there like I mean, obviously we all know there are inherent risks for being on an L2 in the first place, but I think one of them that is mentioned by a good amount of people, but I still feel like it isn't mentioned quite enough outside of the ETH space. That is how snappy it is, and I'm sure for FutureSwap it helps like just as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so cool to just instantly get that feedback. I think that's one of the things that when we first deployed, we were like, holy shit,
Yeah,
this is really cool. Like, wow. That was really exciting. And Go ahead, Stephen.
No, please.
Yeah, and knowing that it's just going to get better from here is like a good starting point, you know?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we have Nitro coming. A bunch of updates between now and then. We had a couple earlier actually, and we're going to be announcing them soon as well. But I'm sure Steven is up in arms hearing that. I hear you.
Yeah,
Love this
I was
thing.
hearing. Which part?
No, just
Oh, we're talking about the snappiness of the
Oh,
transaction.
yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's definitely very fast, and it will get faster, but I don't think I think it's already pretty fast to human time, so I'm not sure people will appreciate that. But yeah, some good upgrades coming, and of course, fees will go down actually. I think fees have already, we've as Hunter alluded to, we've already pushed some things that are, fees have already begun to drop, but the big drop will come with Nitro pretty soon.
And
Yeah,
the
that's
one
super
thing,
exciting.
go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that the one thing I find at least is that like whenever I use a DApp or what have you on Arbitrum is that like the UI isn't fast enough to react to the actual transaction going through. So 9 times out of 10, I got to check Arbiscan real quick, and it'll say on there that it succeeded before the UI does. And
Oh,
I know
wow.
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I hope we don't have that issue. Let us know.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah. Go ahead.
I think Hunter and I were doing something the other day, like, and I'm like, Hunter, I think something's wrong. He's like, no, it's not us. It's like whatever we were using, and like he was like, let me try the mine, and I was like, no, the RBC is fine right now. The sequencer is fine. It's just this UI is just a bit laggy. So yeah, I feel like a lot of the ones that different UIs that Hunter mentioned, like that are built for Ethereum, they sort of assume they have that lag time anyway. So often they're not as snappy as they need to be for Arbitrum.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I don't think we have that problem, but I think that was one of the biggest things our users notice is just like how quick things are, and I think that very very much so mimics what they expect on centralized exchanges, and so having that sort of snappiness really was a big plus for our users.
Awesome, that's great to hear.
And throughout this call, you mentioned a couple of things that you guys have coming up for Futureswap. Can you kind of give us like a breakdown of what you guys have on your roadmap, and of course any alpha if you feel like throwing it on if you want to. You don't have to.
I've been working on a post for our community members. So I don't want to give the whole roadmap, but I think on a high level, you heard me mention some things. So we're looking at spinning up our next pool. And in the past, we said we were working with NFTX, and so we definitely want to deliver on the promises that we have. So that's A. But I think it needs to be met with is the demand there, is the liquidity there, and making sure that can happen as efficiently as possible. For us, one of the main things is really tapping into the other liquidity markets that are on Arbitrum, and so this update that we have essentially makes it more agnostic. So that's a huge update that's an alpha, that's a roadmap item that's coming up pretty soon. So yeah, that's really awesome. And then the last thing that I think I mentioned was, we are looking at sort of utility of the token, and so after that update that I just mentioned after the audit, that's sort of a big focus for afterwards.
Maybe also, you can tell people, those who aren't familiar. I know that like looking back, even like pre-Arbitrum launch, like you guys would have like one thing, and then it's like, no, wait, we have something like way better coming.
We built Futureswap 4 times now, and 3 times was last year. So we got really good at iterating. I'm sure you guys have some experience with that, Stephen.
Absolutely, yes.
And and that's sort of like, we didn't want to be sort of hold into like one thing and then committed to that, and we felt like that thing wasn't the right thing. We wanted to make sure that we put something out there, we learned, and then we iterated to the next thing. And every time we built something, we realized like this whole other bucket of issues. And we've just learned an incredible amount. So I think in terms of experience, we probably are one of the most experienced teams in crypto. Though it may seem pretty scattered. I think now it's pretty strategic, and V4 is not something we will be shutting down. So we're very committed to really expanding on this. And it took a while for us to really understand like what is the unique value prop here, and how does it scale with the rest of the market that's aligned enough that we can see it becoming sort of a central point of DeFi. And that's really a massive focus for us. I think where a lot of the other perpetual exchange, they're sort of cut off from DeFi because they're synthetic and they don't actually need the asset, they just need stable. Futureswap is very different in that it aligns very well with the token projects and integrations and a lot of this yield farming or yield aggregators or these stable token projects. A lot of that can just be mixed in with Futureswap and leverage. Leverage is the key word here. So yeah, we're really excited with what we built.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's just I know that like, and I know the feeling as well in terms of the iteration is like as you build, you just learn so much, and then there's always this like, but we this pressure of like we did it, and but then you just like no, I need to do we've built something so much better, and then like there's a cost to it, but I think we're here for the long run, so these costs are short-term costs. They often pay out if to get to the really, really good design. And I know that you guys have definitely gotten there with the V4.
Yeah. I think it's always easy to sort of, I think there is a sort of, a downside of hopping too much. Like the grass is always greener on the other side. So people are like, oh, this didn't work, so we need to build this. Oh, then shut it down. And, you keep on hopping from one thing to another. And, we've seen projects like that. And I think, you've got to make sure you're learning and then commit and try and build sort of your community and your ecosystem as much as possible, but know when something's not working. And yeah, that's all about having good insight into where things are going. And yeah, V4 is fun.
I would love to know the like what you guys obviously on the team were feeling when you had to kind of rebuild the protocol, like those 3 times you had mentioned. Like obviously, yeah. I'm sure Steven can comment on that too from our end, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I would say the biggest difference between Arbitrum building things and us building things is we had to deploy them and test them in the wild.
True.
Which is difficult because there's money at stake, right?
Yeah.
And so inherently you have to be extremely cautious. And I think you guys you've done that really well with this version. But just, imagine deploying your like previous versions and just being like, all right, let's see what happens. It's like,
yeah, that's kind of scary.
yeah, it's kind of scary. So yeah, so for V1, it was an incredible, we were first to market, so it was an incredible amount of excitement. And that design is actually what closely resembles what GMX is right now. Is essentially our V1, and then V2 was sort of our stab at doing the whole what DYDX is doing now, which is like more centralized. You've got some systems running off chain, and you want to be hyper performant. Though the cost of that is you don't integrate with anything. You're not really part of the community, and you're not really decentralized. And then V3 was essentially very much so looks like a McDex now. and sort of we had this idea after building V2 of like, hey, what if we sort of put this on chain and had this architecture, and then we saw what they were doing and it was like, oh wow, yeah, they're doing it too. And and we saw huge flaws in that as we were about to scale. And I think you can see sort of the difficulty of that, because essentially the liquidity providers at risk really with those systems. And we didn't want to always have our liquidity providers in this cat and mouse game against traders, because traders are so good. They will squeeze the liquidity out of things. And so we had to make sure that we, if there's a slight flaw in the oracle, because you're basically, it's the fight against who knows what the price is first.
Oh, okay.
So if you know what the price is going to be, even slightly, you have leverage on that slight advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you put capital and leverage behind that, you're just like draining these guys, and it's a difficult game. And I think anyone that's doing it and still up and running and doing well, like kudos to them, because it's tricky. But then your time is totally focused around these games around how to slow traders down, and they're always like not that effective. And then it like also dulls down the experience of trading, because then they're like, oh man, I've got to go through all these weird hoops because they're trying to like protect other people from not doing the bad thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a long-winded answer to say V4 doesn't have those risks.
No, yeah, I mean, the only reason why I sounded surprised there is because I feel like I've always heard that like most people trading lose. I think I'm sure there's like a phrase for it, but like like most traders, especially with leverage, like tend to kind of lose because a lot of your emotion is tied into trades and whatnot. But it sounds pretty scary, like a market where traders actually know what they're doing. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's definitely sophisticated traders, and they're really good. And yeah, they're sort of everywhere. And yeah, in terms of most traders losing, I'm not sure. Probably, yeah.
Most amateur traders lose, but then you have the
The degens, the certified degens. Well, we have one question from the community over here about the FST rewards. It
Yes.
says, are FST rewards the same for traders regardless of whether they're using USDC or ETH as collateral? Or is there an increased incentive to use solely ETH over USDC?
No, it's the same. So we just look at the fees generated. If there's 100 FST today going to traders, we just look at how much fees are generated and then split that at the end of the day between those who traded proportionally the amount of fees they did. And that goes for both pools. So you can check our incentives docs at docs.futureswap.com to see which sort of pairs have the most rewards on them, and that will change. So that should be the only difference.
Cool. Other than ETH is, of course, a more superior asset than USDC. I mean, come on. We only spend ETH around here. I don't even know what the dollar is anymore at this point.
ETH and FST.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we care about.
I buy coffee with my FST. Yes.
That would be amazing to buy stuff with ETH. I would be really happy. I think that'd be awesome.
So before we do kind of end it off here, we're hitting the 45-minute mark. Derek, what's the best way for someone to get involved in the Futureswap ecosystem and kind of contribute?
Yeah, I mean, come to our Discord, hang out, ask any questions. Very open community. We're going to be adding more pairs. We're going to have some exciting integrations coming up that I think will grow the community. And yeah, just come along for the ride. It's really fun, and we try to educate people as much as possible on being safe and trading effectively. So yeah, would love to have anyone come and check us out.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and put the by the way, the Discord link for Futureswap in the actual chat right there, so people can kind of go ahead and check you guys out. And with that being said, yeah, Derek, thank you obviously for coming on. Steven as well. Obviously, thank you guys for coming on and just sharing some good old classic alpha with the folks in the audience. And yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hunter. I appreciate it. And Steven, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys have really been killing it. And like you said, it's early days, and I'm super excited to see where this goes. And I know as you open up more peers and things are, we're already seeing things beginning to really accelerate. So I'm super excited to see where this goes, and glad to have you on Arbitrum.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, we really like being here.
L2 2022, guys. See you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.